going, everybody? King Kong Bundy here, and I'm here for another great King Kong Bundy video. We're going to talk about wrestling in the 80s and Nintendo games. The first 3 wrestling games. So stay tuned. Brother. Welcome back, and Mr. Poestyle, not King Kong Bundy, even though kind of looked like King Kong Bundy without the singlet. You know, he didn't have a singlet. Andre had the singlet. King Kong Bundy had the double strap, huh? And anyway, I'm going to talk about the very first 3 wrestling games that came out for the NES here in North America, anyway. And you know, and one of them I'm wearing the shirt for. See? This is my original from, I bought it in 87, came out in 86. I bought it in 87. Actually, I think that this was the 3rd game that I ever owned for my NES. The first 2, I said before, Super Mario Brothers and Kung Fu, I got on Christmas Day with my NES control deck. December 25th, 1986. So we're coming up on 35 years of the anniversary. I still have that. I still have my original lineup of games that I got. And then some now with collecting the last so many years again for it when I went back to collect again. And my original library was probably only about 26 to 30 games. You know, you got games for birthday, you got games for Christmas. I had a paper out. I spent that money on games. And I'm pretty sure that's how I got this one. I got it in 87 at some point. Now, it was either this or Ninja Kid by Bandai. I saw that at a store too. Didn't have the internet. We didn't have Nintendo Power at the time. We had the Nintendo Fun Club. That was about it. I didn't get other gaming magazines at the time until later on. So it just kind of went by what you saw, for the most part, for us, at Kmart, since it was the closest department store to us, or Hills. You looked in the case, and a lot of times they were locked up, and you just looked at the box and said, I think I'll get that one because this money's burning a hole in my pocket. But of that original 26 to 30 games I had, I still have all of the instruction manuals for, because I saved them. A lot of times you threw a bunch of crap away. We always threw away the cardboard boxes. My dad always kind of demanded that. Get the clutter out of the way, burn them. But I kept, you know, you had your handy dandy sleeves. You just kept the instruction manual inside there. And later I bought some of the plastic clamshell Nintendo ones, you know, that I put my games and instruction books in. But this one here was different. Back then, like I said, we didn't get rental stores for video games until later on. So the games that you got were the ones that you bought or the ones that you traded or bartered for. And this was probably a third-party transaction. My oldest brother's friend had a Nintendo around the same time. He wanted to borrow my Tag Team Wrestling. I don't know if he specifically said this title or if he told my older brother, see what your brother has, find something I want to try out, and we can trade. So I said, since his friend had Rob the Robot and Gyromite, I want to borrow Rob and Gyromite. And I did. You know, tried them out, and eventually, like everybody else, I pushed Rob off to the side and used the second player controller for myself. But when I lent it to him, my Tag Team Wrestling, I also lent him the instruction manual, and I never got it back. And that pissed me off to no end when I was a kid. It still kind of does now. It was still the original the only one from my original library that I don't have the instruction manual for. But we're talking about the 80s here. And, you know, NES obviously got real popular real quick. When I got mine in 86, I knew nobody that had it. I didn't hear much about it. I saw it in the fall of 86 in a display case at Kmart. Just happened to, didn't feel like shopping with my parents. I had to go with them. And, you know, this was my 7th grade year, junior high. I headed towards the back of the store and I saw it in the case, and I saw the box for Kung Fu, the black box, and I saw those graphics and I said, holy crap, that looks better than any Atari game I ever played, because pretty much Atari was my experience until that point. And even at that point, I hadn't played my Atari in a year or two. You know, I just kind of lost interest like a lot of people did. Saw it, needed a Nintendo, thought it looked great, got a Nintendo. Didn't know anybody until probably later on into 87. Other friends, kids at school started talking about having Nintendos. Also, wrestling. Where I lived, they didn't run the cable up our road. We didn't live in town. We didn't live out in the, way out in the country either. But where we lived, the cable didn't come up the road for a while. So we had a CBS channel. We had an ABC. I think we had 2 NBCs, one from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and one from Johnstown for whatever reason. 2 different locations on the dial. One was channel 6, the other was channel 11. 2 NBCs, just different news on them, different broadcasters. We had a PBS channel, channel 13 here in Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania, to watch our Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and Electric Company and whatnot. And that was it that we knew of that we could get in at that time. You know, we had one television, my dad's 25-inch Zenith, that had wood built around it. It seemed like a big screen TV in the late 70s, early 80s. We had the one television. Now, at one point, my grandmother was getting rid of her small, what you would call a bedroom television. It might have been her main TV at the time. It was a little black and white TV. She ended up giving us that TV. My dad allowed us kids to have that in our bedroom. And at the time, we didn't have the Atari hooked to it or anything. It was a small black and white TV. But we discovered with the rabbit ears on it. Now, my dad didn't even have an antenna on the house. We used rabbit ears on the big TV, too, in the living room. We started messing around and turned it to UHF on the knob. And we discovered channel 22 and channel 53, UHF, you know, in Pittsburgh, these channels. And I believe it was channel 22, WPTT, I think it was back in the 80s. And they had Captain Pitt Show, you know, he was a host that wore a little captain suit. We discovered wrestling, and this was right at the time, right before or right during when Hulk Hogan became a champion. Saturday wrestling, we discovered it on there. So, you know, we discovered if we applied enough aluminum or tin foil to the rabbit ears and the color TV in the living room, we could also get it in. So now wrestling became an obsession for us at our house. Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughter, Andre the Giant, the Iron Sheik, later Nikolai Volkov, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. All these great wrestlers. So Saturdays we made sure we were watching that, you know. And what was the other one that wasn't WWF at the time? You had the whole Von Erich clan, you know. You had WCW. This became a huge thing, you know, back when wrestling was fun. Good guys versus bad guys. You know, whether you knew it was scripted or not at the time. Wrestling was the shit. And Nintendo was the shit in the 80s. So, it's only natural. The two come together. You got my peanut butter and your chocolate, and you got your chocolate and my peanut butter and whatnot. A lovely combination, right? Maybe not. You know, I'm going to talk about the first 3 games that came out. First 3 wrestling games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And those are in order. M.U.S.C.L.E. This is Tag Team Match M.U.S.C.L.E. And I also have the Famicom port that I put in the adapter. I don't know why. I just do. I like the way it looked. Looks neat in the collection. But M.U.S.C.L.E, these were the little pink guys. Remember those? I loved them. Later on, you had different colors that came out, but I just loved these at the time. And actually, this was before I got my NES that these pink guys became popular. I was probably into them for a whole year before I was back out of them again. Like I said, later on they came out with other colors, but they were the pink men to me. And I remember they would even give one out in the bottom of the tin of cardboard box of Nestle Quick. It wasn't Nesquik back then. Nestle Quick, you would get one inside. And I remember them having a picture, I think, of this guy on the Nestle Quick, and I saved that tin. And that's what I kept my pink men, my muscles in. And, you know, you collect those out of bubblegum machines. You could buy whole packages of them at the store. I'm going off on a tangent. Is it a tangent? No, it's not a tangent. It's not a rant. I'm just going off because that's my brain. But loved the pink guys for like a whole year in 6th grade. You even find some on the playground. Nobody claimed them. They're mine, you know. And there was different variants of each one. They might be the same guy with horns, only now he's missing a hand, this and that. Collect them all, kids. And I wanted to. Had them until I lost all of my old toys back in 2009 when I moved to where I am now. I lost all of my old toys. But this game, I don't even remember knowing that it existed, let alone that it was the very first wrestling game for the NES. But whatever, I didn't play it until I was an adult. I didn't get these games until really recent years, or even try them. Actually, I had this on emulator and never tried it, because I had a whole zip pack in the early 2000s. I don't even know if there was zip back then, but a whole pack of NES ROMs that I would play on my computer. And this was one of them that was on there. And don't remember playing it until recent years. So, you know, at some point I decided to buy these. And the second game that came out, no, this was October of 86, I believe they said. This was also October of 86 here in the U.S. I'm talking U.S. release dates here, but this one must have been slightly after this one. This is the probably third game that I had for my NES. Loved wrestling. We were watching it every Saturday at this point. So I figured this was going to be great. We were going to play a wrestling game. So we're going to play Tag Team Wrestling by Data East. You know, it came out a few years earlier for some computer systems, like I think the Apple II and the Commodore 64, etc. I think this game came out in like 84 for them. Came out, what, on the Famicom, maybe a year prior. I don't think, maybe a year prior. And then finally, the third game, the third wrestling game for the NES, that probably a lot of you know more than the other two, because, quite frankly, it's the best of the three. That's Pro Wrestling, a black box game that ended up coming out after the other two. This one I never owned at the time. Had it, played it on emulator a lot in later years, in the 2000s I'm talking about. But I borrowed the hell out of this game. I don't remember who all, if it was different people that I borrowed it from, but just loved it. And of course I loved being Starman. Also loved being Amazon, or whatever his name is. Just played this like crazy from whoever it was I borrowed it from. I know there was a friend of mine that I borrowed a lot of stuff from. He recently passed away. I remember borrowing the NES Advantage and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out from him back in the day, you know, where we would trade games. You know, trade, barter, whatnot for these games before the rental stores came out. And I'm sure I rented this again after we finally got rental stores in the area, grocery stores. At one point, the grocery store that my mother worked at got a rental department, and sometimes she would just grab me random games. Most of the time, I'd tell her to get me Bionic Commando, because I loved that freaking game. But she would get me random games, or I would go in there with my paper out money and, you know, have to use her video rental card. They would allow me because they knew her. She worked there, and I would rent games. And Pro Wrestling, black box game, awesome game, the best of the three. Now, I have, I don't know, a collection of Nintendo games now that's in the 200s to 300s now. And I have King of the Ring, WWF. I believe this was the last released WWF game for the system. I believe it was 93. by that point, I had moved on to the Super Nintendo. I moved on to the Super Nintendo Christmas of '91. So I never played this game. I got this from Video Games Monthly, I don't know, within the last year, 2 years, 3 years. And I still haven't tried it out. I cleaned it up. Oh, I haven't played it. I always clean them up. I put them in to make sure they turn on. So this won't be in the gameplay video that's coming up. A lot of people don't really like it. A lot of people don't like anything by LJN or Claim for the NES. I'm not from that same cut. Some of the games I like by LJN, some of the games I don't. I happen to think that Friday the 13th, Jaws, and especially Nightmare on Elm Street are pretty decent for the games by LJN. But I do remember liking the WrestleMania one with Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. You know, we rented it, we borrowed it. You know, we probably played all of the ones that came out for it. I just didn't own them. And simply because Andre the Giant was my favorite wrestler. And, you know, followed by Hulk Hogan. So, you know, I liked it. A lot of people didn't like it. Whatever. But wrestling and the NES and the 80s, I mean, you can say that about a lot of things. Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Robotech. A lot of good stuff came out of the 80s as far as us Gen Xers are concerned. But wrestling was a hot thing, and the NES was the hottest thing here in the USA. So these games were important. They were important at the time. Now, I already recorded the video that you're about to see coming up, the gameplay video. Player 1 in each of these games is myself. Player 2 is my son. He's 17 years old. Now, all of these games I have played before. All of these games he has not. Now, he's been through a lot of my old game library for a lot of my old consoles, including Atari, Fairchild, NES. He's played a lot of my games. He's never played M.U.S.C.L.E. He's never played tag team wrestling or pro wrestling. And I didn't really give him the rundown. So in tag team wrestling, I didn't really get a chance to explain the menu to him before we played it. So he was Strong Bads, I was Ricky Fighter. You'll see in the video. Pro wrestling, I was Starman, he was the Amazon. And M.U.S.C.L.E, he was the player 2 guys down at your bottom right of the screen. I was at the top left. And in M.U.S.C.L.E, as you can see, first release wrestling game for the NES, you had power-ups that a guy, character, or kid, I believe the name is Meat, simply known as Meat, not to be confused for Meat from the Porky's movies. Meat throws in power-ups. You're running around, you can do this and that. You know, beat each other up, fly off the ropes. You know, we're going to talk about this. It's the one that I played as a kid, and we eventually figured it out. You try to punch the guy with the A button. It brings up a menu, and you only have so much time to select. With your B button, you scroll through your menu, and you choose the move you want to do, and press A again. A, B, A. A, B, scroll through with your D-pad, pick that move, the A. And there's a lot of spamming you can do, chasing each other around, hitting each other, pressing the A button, you know. And a lot of times that'll mess up your move. You know, maybe it won't register till a little bit late, so you're going to do the most basic, whatever the first move is in your drop-down menu, your menu, because you hit A too many times or hit A too quick. So you didn't get a chance to cycle through the menu, with the B menu. That happens a lot in this game. We would get it down a little bit. You can go outside of the ring, hit the other guy with the bell, I think it is. And that was it. And we thought it was alright. My brothers and I played this game quite a bit on the NES back in '87. It was alright for the time, you know. But then pro wrestling changed everything. You're actually doing moves depending on how you pushed that button. You punch the guy. When you lock up with the guy, you're choosing a move. Double press towards the ropes, you're running to the ropes. Now you're running and bouncing off the ropes. And then press that attack button again to attack the guy where you're running. Maybe you'll hit him, maybe you won't. You can climb up on the ropes. Wow, what a great idea. Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Macho Man, Randy Savage, Rey Mysterio later on, whatever, whoever. You can fly off them ropes and pull a move. Try to pin the guy, try to keep him down. Slam those buttons. Do what you can. Pro wrestling is definitely the best of the three. Like I said, my son had never played them before, so it's kind of like I was kind of going in, not really blind, but kind of, because I didn't reread any instruction manuals. And a lot of times when you were kids renting games, borrowing games especially from people, they didn't lend you the manuals. So that's how we play now. I can play from memory, try to remember. My memory sucks. But you can go in there and try to remember how to play these games. Or you can read the instruction manual and figure out the moves. But we're usually on the fly here. We're doing stuff. We don't know when we're going to make a new video, when we're going to play new games, my son and I. So it's just like, okay, here we go. We're going to throw in the game and we're going to learn as we go. Or we're not going to learn as we go. And we're going to just suck ass. Most of the time that's the case. We're going to just suck ass at these games. So that's it. These are the first 3 games that came out for the NES here in the U.S. Give them a chance. Check them out on emulator if you can. Now, full disclosure here. While I'm playing tag team wrestling and pro wrestling, the video that I shot was on my classic NES Mini console. Games that I had added to it, I had hacked the thing. My pro wrestling, I think, might have already been on there, but I definitely added this. Now, I had also added the ROM of M.U.S.C.L.E to it at some point. When we tried that out, it was messed up. The screen was glitched. It was messed up. So, the video footage on here of my son and I playing are on an actual CRT on my original Nintendo down in the basement. Wasn't the best time of day for that, because of the lighting, and I still don't have any blackout curtains for down there, but it's the way we had to do it for this video. So this is old school original CRT gameplay when you see it. These two are on my NES Classic Mini modded on my 4K TV upstairs in my living room. And I also have the ROMs for all 3 of these on my modified Wii console. But unfortunately, today I found out it didn't power up. First time ever since we got that Wii way back in the day. So I do have another power supply on order. I hope that's the only problem with it. I didn't trace it out, test it out with a voltage meter. So I just ordered one because they're like $10 on Amazon. Hopefully that works, because I do have a lot of emulators on my hacked Switch. I have a lot of games, a lot of different emulators on there. Hopefully it's not totally dead. I worked all this time up until now, so I'm grateful for that. But I have a lot of games on there. Probably would have been more convenient to use it, and I would have, if my mini ROM of M.U.S.C.L.E had worked on there. I would have used it for all 3 of them. I know they all work fine on my Wii, but the Wii isn't working. Anyway, I rambled on for way too long. Upcoming video, after I'm done bullshitting here, me and my son playing the first 3 wrestling games for the NES here in North America. And thanks ahead of time. Thanks for watching. And hopefully we'll see you on the next video. You can get yourself a cool shirt like this. I believe the company's TeePublic I ordered this through. You know, and it was like $13. I know you probably say it's way too much for a game you don't like. I thought it was pretty sweet. And it actually just reminded me of great days of playing this with my brother or with our buddies, who we purposely didn't tell them how to use the drop-down menu, the A, B, and blah, blah. We just wanted to kick their asses. Because all they had was an Apple computer at home. I don't know, Apple IIe, Apple II, whatever, Apple blah, blah, blah. They didn't have an NES. So they came to our house to play my sweet games on my sweet system. And a lot of times I just left a few ingredients out. Didn't let them know until their asses were fully kicked. I'm Mr. Poestyle. Thank you for watching. Tell me what you think about these games. Tell me what you think about the 80s. Tell me what you think about old wrestling. The good old days. Captain Lou Albano. Later on, Mario. How about that shit? Cyndi Lauper. 80s were awesome. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't give a shit. Oh, Nacho. Come here, Nacho. No biting. No bite. Ooh, no biting. Oh, Nacho, stop.